think in coaching, cool thing about it is we see the good in all of our players. We see their top potential. We see that from the outside looking in, even when they may not. So that moment that it clicks and they realize they're that good and they belong and they can compete at that level. That's for a coach. There's nothing more rewarding than that. You can take conference championship trophies away. You can take rings away. I mean, that's the moment that I kind of fell in love with, out on the course or in practice is like, and that person just realized, what we had been seeing all along.
Today we're joined by Daniel DeLuca. Daniel is a teaching instructor at the Governor's Club of Tennessee. Prior to that, Daniel played college golf and had a college golf coaching career. Daniel played college golf at Eastern Kentucky University from 2011 till 2015, and then was assistant coach there till 2017. Daniel went from EKU to SF Austin, where he was assistant coach till 2019, and then Army, where he was assistant coach till 2021. Daniel then took the head coaching job at Morehead State before becoming a golf instructor at the Governor's Club of Tennessee. One thing to note is we did have some technical issues in the recording of this podcast, which led us to have to switch platforms partway through. You may hear a little bit difference in audio quality from what we normally desire. We hope you bear with us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you. Daniel, we know you're from Lexington. You played at Lexington Catholic. You actually also ended up going out to play at Pebble Beach in the first tee event that they have out there, but starting a little bit before that, how'd you get into golf and what made you want to play more competitively?
And I grew up playing a lot of different sports. I was playing football and baseball. I come from a pretty big baseball family. My grandfather, dad, and older brother all played college baseball at the Division I level. Was really good at basketball. I tell people basketball was kind of my first love. And then for some reason, the only time I would play golf was going out casually with my family or on vacation. And, I don't know when it clicked. I just know it was around 13, 14 years old. I was out at the driving range and I was getting pretty good pretty quick. And I was like, man, I could, dad can sign me up for some tournaments. And so he did. And I got, I started winning a few. And back when I was playing, it was the Musselman Dunn and Baker Gary Tour and the Pepsi Tour. And I think my 14, 15-year-old summer going into high school, I think I was Pepsi Tour Player of the Year for my age group. And, had some guys out at Man o' War Golf tell my dad that, hey, this kid can get pretty good. He's gotten good pretty quick, so might as well keep it rolling. And I ended up playing basketball my freshman year of high school. And then that summer, Catholic has a pedigree for basketball, and it became where you need to play year round. And, I was missing a bunch of tournaments for basketball because I was playing golf outside. I mean, I don't want to be in a gym that has no AC in the middle of the, July heat in Kentucky. I'd rather be outside at least. That way you can get a breeze. So I just kind of came back to my parents after that summer and I said, hey, I think I want to run with golf, and I think basketball's kind of over for me. But I just fell in love with the fact that it was you and only you out there. And, golf can expose you because it's an individual sport. And, in baseball and basketball, you could be having an off game. Maybe you're not shooting well, maybe you're not pitching well, but, you got guys behind you and guys to the left and right of you that can make up for that. All right, well, I'm not hitting my, threes tonight. I'm just going to, see how many assists I can get or go down and rebound or play really good defense, and golf, it's not like that. I mean, if something's go wrong, you got to fix it quick. And I just kind of fell in love with that. Nobody could really tell you what to do. It was only you out there.
Yeah, that's definitely a common theme with guys that started out playing basketball or baseball and then transitioned into golf. We've had a few of those guests. Was there a certain point when you started playing more serious golf tournaments, and when did you start thinking, I want to play college golf?
Yeah, I mean, like any kid going, playing competitive golf, and you start to think, hey, college golf can be an option for you. And I think that summer going into my junior year, June 15th has always been that date. You can talk to college coaches and they can reach out to you. And I was having a really good summer. I was getting some looks from schools at every different level, some D1 schools, and I remember it was my first state am I had played in out at Champions, and I'd been having a pretty good summer, but I hadn't really shot many rounds under par. I was right around even par to 74, 75. My average was probably just north of 73, and I went out the first round and shot 2 under. And I just remember that feeling coming in. I mean, so many sports psychologists and, talk about the zone. And, that was my first time. I was like, man, I got off the course and I was like, I just kind of woke up. Like I think the front nine, I was kind of scrapping it around and shot maybe 38 on the front and, or 39. And then I go to the back and, I birdie, I think 11, I birdie 12. And I'm like, all right, I'm back to, 1 over. I can get this, going pretty fast, and ended up shooting like 32 or 31 on that back nine, shot 2 under, was like 2 or 3 off the lead. Come back out the next day and I'm through, I think I started on the back. I'm through, 3 or 4 on the front. I just hit it to, 5 feet on 4. I was 1 over on the day, 1 under for the tournament. I was going to make birdie there, and they blow the horn and we don't hit another golf shot the rest of the day. And, they decided to just make the cut after 18 holes and, play that final round. It was a 36-hole tournament. And I remember a few coaches coming out and, Coach Craig and Coach David Trainer was the assistant at the time at Kentucky. And that was really the first time I'd had somebody of that magnitude and that high level golf come and watch me.
So you get to that final day, Coach Craig watched you. All of a sudden you have some eyes on you. That first day though, were you nervous at all? You said you were in the zone, so you kind of got done and you finished up and you're like, whoa, like I shot under par. I'm in competition in this tournament. Was that a new place for you to be? And what did you really think of that?
I would say after the first day, not really. I just remember I had a late tee time. So we had like 1 rain delay, and, it's middle of June in Kentucky. Anything's, it's going to rain a lot. It's just like with the Barbasol right now. I mean, it seems like it rains. It's just the way it is, it's going to pop up showers and everything. So, we got done so late. I remember just not getting done till, 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And, a guy from one of the papers at Louisville pulled me aside and was like, you shot 2 under. Have you seen the leaderboard yet? And this was before, Golf Genius or, anything like that, where you were entering scores on your phone or online. It was actually, in the ancient days when you had to use pen and paper and, sign your scorecard and turn it in. He was like, have you looked at the leaderboard yet? I was like, nah, I played really well. That's the only thing I was focused on. And, he did a little bit of a interview with me, and, Tom and I went out to dinner that night up at Malone's in Palomar, and came back out the next day. Didn't think anything of it. It was just playing really good golf, and wasn't until that last day where you got video cameras on you. You're in the second or third to last group, and you have a chance to win. Coaches are watching you, and that's when it kind of hit me a little bit. The news was carrying around a camera, getting tee shots, and I think I played with Tyler Sharp, who had won a state am, either the year before or year before that, and played with a guy by the name of Brett Munson, Louisville, who had played professional golf and had just recently got his amateur status back. So, those are experiences, when you're 16, 17 years old, that are just valuable. And looking back on it, it's like, man, I was just a young kid. I wish I had that mentality, when I got to college, of just going out and playing. But it was fun.
So that was towards the end of your time in high school. Did it feel like that experience translated over to when you played college? And for a little bit of context, you went on to go play at EKU, which is in-state, and you got to know the coaches, I imagine, partially through that performance, and maybe you were talking with them beforehand.
Yeah, that was the summer where you're just now starting to talk to coaches. So, it kind of had to develop from there. And, again, I went on to have a pretty decent summer going into my senior year of high school. And, I think it was maybe senior year, first few tournaments. I put way too much pressure on myself, just knowing it was that final year, and I wasn't committed anywhere yet. I was getting some really good looks, but just hadn't found that right fit for me. And fall break of senior year, after our season got over, I went on visits and visited with Belmont and Morehead State and EKU, and it just bottom line, it just came to the fact that at Eastern, I had played with a lot of those guys growing up in golf and high school golf, and to me, that felt like home. I knew Coach Stevens pretty well at that point, and I knew he was obviously the pedigree for Kentucky golf, and not only as a coach but as a player as well. I mean, he was still playing and competing in section events and senior events and doing very, very well. This is a guy that qualified for the U.S. Open, and his first one on the range on Monday morning. He's got Jack Nicklaus to his left and Bernard Longer to his right, which were 1 and 2 in the world at the time. And that's somebody you want to play for, right? That he's an accomplished player, so he's got the experience and can relay that to you.
Yeah, that's something I was going to lead into on my next question. I was, pretty good friends with a lot of guys that played for Coach Stevens, and they, I've heard a lot of stories about the way he ran things. He was pretty strict in his practices and how he ran that program. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, again, he was all about just getting better each day, doing something that you might not have done the day before, or just kind of, obviously he didn't want you to forget your strengths, but, you also have to work on your weaknesses as well. And, he gave us enough individual time. Again, that's being in coaching and learning that after I got out, done playing and getting into coaching, is you got to figure out a good balance, for your guys. And what's the good balance of individual time versus structured time, what we need to work on and get better at as a team. I would say that's one of the difficult challenges of coaching, but I think, Coach Stevens did a great job of that. He knew what, each one of what each one of us did well and then what we didn't do well. So he gave us enough time to work on that, but also he knew what needed to get done as a team and successful and compete in tournaments and then in conference championships. So, I mean, it's just a testament to him that at the time when I was there, I think it was something crazy like 30 years straight. We had finished top 4 at the OBC or something like that. So he had developed a program there, and it was all because of structure, practice, and scheduling and all that.
And how structured were your practices? How much time did you have for, personal practice, or how much was team drills, team games, et cetera?
Yeah, he would always have something structured, when we got to practice that day. And sometimes it was, we never left the putting green. Sometimes it was short game and putting. Sometimes it was, working on short irons, mid irons, wedges. Sometimes it was working on driver. I mean, there was something always structured that day of practice. And one of those guys, once you got it done, that was individual time the rest of the time. So it was nice that we had the learning center right there by Arlington. We could, get out. We had a loop that kind of took us. Used to be 6, 7, 8, 9. Now they switched to nines. I don't know what hole it is now, but you could play like 6, 7, 8, then jump down to 3 or 4 and play 4, 5, and then you're right back at the learning center. It took you about that. So, some guys would link up and go play some, their own thing. So we had a good mentality at practice. Hey, we understand what the expectation coach has of us. We're gonna get done what we need to get done, and then once it's individual time or once it's practice is over, we're gonna be college kids again. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna go study together. We're gonna go to dinner together. We're gonna relax. We're gonna play video games, whatever have you after practice. So, but I can tell you there were a lot of teams there when we were on the course or at practice. We were wanting to beat each other for sure.
Yeah, something that I realized when I was doing some research for this podcast is 3 guys from your team actually went on to be college coaches. You, Will Salee, and Taylor Riggs. How much influence do you think Coach Stevens had on those career choices?
Oh man, it was huge. I mean, I was one of those guys. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I just majored in sports management because I like sports. I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do outside of playing and competing in golf, and I was actually going to be a GA in the department, the sports management department at EKU, and because Taylor had, I redshirted my freshman year. Taylor and I were the same class coming in, but I redshirted, so he was done a year before me playing. He was our GA my last year playing, and we always thought he was going to be there for 2 years, and he got an opportunity down at University of the Cumberlands down in Williamsburg to be their head men's and women's golf coach at whatever age he was, 23, 24, which was incredible. I mean, be a head coach at any level at all at that young of an age is a huge accomplishment. So he took that job. It opened up a GA spot for the men's and women's golf team, and I just remember going in to see my advisor, who I was going to work for and be a GA for, and teach a whatever, underwater basket weaving class or water polo class, whatever I was going to do. I just remember telling her, and she goes, "You just got to find what you're passionate about." And I was like, "Oh, I'm passionate about golf and helping others." And she's like, "I think you have your answer then." So, I called Coach Stevens and Coach Whitson, who was obviously the women's coach at the time, and I told him, I said, "Yeah, I would love." That was first year was really eye opening, because if you haven't been around women's golf before after playing men's golf at the college level, it can be a little different, but it's also have an open mind and focus stays on just helping others. It's very rewarding because they'll listen. They're not like us guys that just push back and don't agree with you much, but they'll listen. And once off the course was where I really changed, because I was always one that was I was notorious for going to the range after a round, whether it be good or bad. I was eaten up by it. I just wanted to get better. And once on the women's side, once you're done with the tournament, it's like, all right, where are we going to get ice cream? Where are we going to get a root beer float or whatever? The conversations they have aren't about golf. It's not about the round that day. So that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
I can imagine that makes for a lot more fun van rides back. Was it weird when you're GA at a school where you're friends with all the guys? So you've gone from this position where you're buddies with them to all of a sudden, like, you're not their superior, but you're not in charge of them. And if they do something, they'll get in trouble. And I think that might have happened one time when Taylor was coach. He was friends, you're friends with some of the guys. Guys have a little fun, and then it puts you in that awkward position. Is that something that was weird at first for you?
No. I mean, I just think it takes discipline. And, again, Coach Stevens and Coach Whitson sit you down, right? And they're like, hey, you can't, you're on the other side of it now. You're coaching and trying to help these guys and girls get better. And, you can't hang out with them. You can't, it was one of those things where, I don't think I just had a good balance with it, right? Like, I was still, I just let them know, hey, I'm still your friend. I was still your teammate, but now I'm your coach. So, but I was always the guy that was like, hey, don't, if you're ever in a situation where, call me, my phone's on at all times of the day, call me, let me, tell me what's going on. We'll chat. And then, but just know that I'm in coaching. I'm the assistant coach to the head coach. So if what you tell me is going to get back to the head coach for sure. I mean, that's just the trust that we have to build on the coaching side. So I think it was just, I did a good job of staying disciplined and not really, letting that, affect the way that, the coach, that how I wanted to learn and make my mark in coaching. Also, trying to better our team. And I don't know if you guys remember that year. I mean, it was, our guys were like top 25 in the country. Or our women's team was winning a lot. I think our guys team had won 5 times in the fall. The 6th tournament, we finished second. And the girls team, I think we won 3 or 4 times. I'm sitting there like, man, coaching was awesome.
No, that was definitely a really good, I'll use the word inspiration for me. I was a freshman at Morehead, and, seeing EKU be top 25 in the country, winning every tournament that they played in. It was definitely a lot of motivation is probably a better word for me, to try to aspire to that level.
I mean, talent. Sorry, but talent wise, man, I mean, when you're being recruited, you hear about the teams in the past that were just so good. And the cool thing about it was Kentucky guys, it was in-state guys that did it and were passionate about going to EKU or Morehead State or where I was last year at Murray State. I mean, even then you're getting local guys that grew up bleeding maroon, grew up bleeding blue, grew up bleeding navy and gold. I mean, that's what was so cool about it. And you had Will, Jared, and Noah on the team that were then and won a conference championship their freshman year in NCAA regional. And as a freshman, I mean, the sky's the limit from there, man. And we got to take a guy like Travis Rose, who I've always said Travis had some of the most talent that I had ever seen. Swinging a golf club, and then you had a freshman like Billy Basham. I mean, that team was it was pretty remarkable. I mean, it really was.
And the interesting thing too about that team you all mentioned is that like all those guys were right about on the radar of UK, but not like big enough that they're going to like try to swoop in and take them. And frankly, like with the pull that UK has in state, they probably would have been able to pull that off. But you take that group of guys that right are just on the border of that, and then that year compared to Kentucky, I mean, you're spanking Kentucky as far as talent goes, as far as performance goes. It's hard to ignore that. I'm sure it felt good as a coach and good as a team to say, hey, we're not necessarily, we might be little brother maybe, but little brother wins sometimes.
Y'all were highest ranked team in the state in golf stat for a good while there.
Even when I was playing, I would be lying if I said that wasn't on our minds too. We kind of had that identity of, hey, we all had been at one point maybe recruited by Big Brother. And they just, we ended up at EKU, which again, that was, we all loved it and had a great time. But again, in recruiting, we had some guys that were recruited by them. So we kind of had a chip on our shoulder. And, that was a great, Coach Stevens played 2 years at UK. So that's, a lot of people don't know that. And then he transferred back to Eastern his last 2 years playing. And, he loved it. I mean, he knew that we had a chip on our shoulder, and he knew that, we were so-called little brother to the bigger schools. And we just, we just didn't care. I mean, my GA year, I think they went down. And, at my GA year, we had a volunteer assistant, Tom Giacchini, God rest his soul. And Gio was an incredible man. So I traveled more with the women. I just remember getting that phone call. I think they were playing Western's event down at Old Stone, and they ended up winning the tournament, came back and beat UK that time. And I mean, Coach Stevens will still tell that story when the guys got in the van. I mean, that feeling of not only winning the tournament, but beating a team that was kind of the benchmark and pedigree in the state was, I mean, I could feel it through the phone. They're excited.
And that UK team, if I remember correctly, that team still has a bunch of guys that are out there playing right now. I think that Cooper Musselman, Steven Stallings Jr., I don't know if Lucas Euler was part of that team at that point, but he's out there. That team had a bunch of Fred Allen Meyer. Like that team had a bunch of different guys. And so I'm sure it must have felt really good with Coach Stevens being structured and really, delineating the difference between player and coach. How did that affect your coaching philosophy when you went on to SF Austin, Army, and Murray State?
And it was everything. I mean, and as an assistant coach, you're knowing that working towards being a head coach one day, taking everything in, and you're just trying to learn from every coach that you have the honor of working for. And that's the great thing is we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to just get better and beat and try to shoot the lowest scores we can. And we're trying to improve facilities and improve everything about our program. But it's like in golf instruction. We're all trying to get you to hit the ball well. It's just a different way of relaying information, different personalities. So, I knew going into it, hey, I want to do, I love what Coach Stevens used to do here. I love what Coach Schrader used to do here at Stephen F. Austin. I love Coach Begley and the way he, talked to the team the night before the first round, or he just took all these little things and then once you become a head coach, you try to implement those to the best of your ability, knowing that it's going to come off different just because you have a different way of relaying information to your guys, and you have a different personality. And but it was just, it was cool to play for a guy like that. Now, he just recently announced that he's going into the Kentucky Golf Hall of Fame. I mean, that's stuff that, when I've got little ones running around and they're able to meet Coach Stevens and Coach Schrader and Coach, these are the guys that gave me my opportunity and, took a chance on me. And that's why a couple of them were in my wedding. I mean, Ashton and I's wedding, I was forever grateful. I'm forever indebted to everyone that took a chance on me and gave me a chance to be where I am today.
Those types of relationships, especially when you have a coach, almost like a second father figure to be able to look up to and you take different things from, is very unique. What did you take from each coach? You mentioned like the speech before the round. What did you take from each coach in particular? And how did that kind of inform your analysis of not just like coaching as an assistant coach, but what players needed as they were going into a tournament?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing each one of them taught me was, it's obviously as a coach, you're telling your guys, you're telling your girls, it's not what you want to hear, it's what you need to hear. So, but at the end of the day, it takes time to build that trust where they understand that, okay, this is what I need to hear. Again, you're going to have pushback. It's just human nature, right? Like just as humans, we just don't take criticism well. Now in a world of, social media and individual attributes and, just it's all about image. We're not going to take criticism well because we're going to portray an image of, we're perfect and, we don't need to get any better or what have you. And it's just, I took that from each one of the coaches that I worked for, when I was an assistant, and the fact that, hey, what do these guys do to build trust? What do these guys do to make these guys that they're coaching listen? And I think that's, for me, that was a big part of it is, you're trying to do whatever you can to contribute to the program while also learning things, knowing that hopefully one day you're going to be a head coach and be in the same shoes, whether it be a tough conversation or whether it be that moment that a player actually realizes their potential that you've seen all along. I think in coaching, cool thing about it is we see the good in all of our players. We see their top potential. We see that from the outside looking in, even when they may not. So that moment that it clicks and they realize, they're that good and they belong and they can compete at that level. That's, for a coach, there's nothing more rewarding than that. You can take conference championship trophies away. You can take rings away. I mean, that's the moment that I kind of fell in love with, out on the course or in practice, is like, and that person just realized, what we had been seeing all along.
And you said there's two things you really like, and that is helping other people and golf. And that's kind of what coaching brings to the table for you as far as personal fulfillment. And when you're working with college players, as you mentioned, especially with guys, they're a lot more obstinate. They're a lot less willing to take advice. And sometimes like it works out fine for them. Sometimes it doesn't. For the guys that didn't reach their potential, was there a common theme that you felt like you saw with them? Not just like listening to coach or not listening to coach, but was there something bigger going on that, if I'm a junior right now and I look at my own personal life, or I'm looking to go to college, hey, here's a pitfall that I probably should avoid. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, was there something that guys who, maybe kind of were diamonds in the rough and then really got to shine later, was there something that they had that was different than what other people had?
I mean, the biggest thing is, we remember when we were 18 to 20 years old, right? We knew everything. There was nothing that we didn't know, and we were kings of the world. We were the big bass in that small pond, and not even realizing there's a huge ocean out there, and I went through that, going into college. I was like, man, I'm the best and there's nobody else, even close. And after the first round of qualifying, I'm a dead last of the team. And I'm like, okay, this is different, so you try to, in coaching, you try to see those guys that kind of they have that moment where they get pushed back a little bit. You kind of see that resiliency of okay, how do they respond to that? And again, some guys are a little bit further along where they respond great to that, and I would say that's your great players, because every single round of golf that you play, there's going to be a moment, and Coach Bagley at Army always talked about it. There is always going to be a moment where of adversity, and how resilient are you in that round of golf? It is, again, some rounds everything's going to be clicking. Range session went great. You're feeling good. You're in a great frame of mind. Your school studies are taken care of. Your personal life is in perfect order. Everything's going to go great. But more oftentimes than not, 99.9% of the time, you're going to face that moment of adversity. And how do you respond? You've got two roads you can go down. You can take it on the chin and push back, or you can kind of be like, well, maybe tomorrow is going to be a better day. And that's the thing. In college, we play so much golf. In college golf, you're going to have days like that. But the guys and girls that can, on bad days when everything's not clicking right, can they make it respectable? Can they get it in the clubhouse and feel good? And then they come out the next day knowing that they're going to feel better, and they take a lot away from that day that was just really, really hard. It's just a game where we play such a game that's so day to day that has so many outside variables working against you, that how well can you respond? How well can you push back?
That is all really, really good stuff. I'm curious to see what your answer is to this next question. From 2019 to 2021, you're the assistant coach at West Point. First of all, I want to know what you learned from being a part of that organization as a whole, where, golf is definitely not the most important thing going on over there. And number two, like you said previously, what you learned from Coach Begley and how he ran the golf program in particular.
Man, you talk about a guy that he went to West Point, right? Served his country for over 20 years. He played golf at West Point. He knew everything about that place. He knew everything, what it took to be a successful cadet, not only on the golf course, but off the golf course, and on post, and in the classroom, and within your company. And, that experience is just so, for Ashton and I, was just so invaluable, because words can't describe it. You're right, Cooper. Golf wasn't the first priority, but by God, we wanted to play well. I mean, we wanted to beat people. We wanted to win. So that, from that aspect, it was rewarding, knowing that it wasn't the first priority. These guys weren't going to go on and play professional golf. They were going to go and serve our country and lead units in the Army, and lead 18 to 22-year-old men. I mean, as a 22 or 23-year-old, I mean, that's the thing people don't realize at West Point is these guys have to lead men that are their age or even maybe older, that joined the Army out of high school. They've got to be ready. They've got to be prepared. And I think from a standpoint, we had 14 guys on the team, 14 leaders. It bode well in a sport like golf, because, like I said, you're gonna go through that adversity in the golf round. And it was, anytime we pulled up the van, or anytime we played in the tournament, eyeballs were on us, because oh man, those guys are badass, and just kind of being around that for 2 years was incredible. And people would come up to me and be like, "Thank you for your service." I had to no. Like, I'm just a golf coach. Like, I'm a civilian. Like, these guys right here, our head coach, our officer rep, our guys on our team. These guys are truly badasses. I mean, this is something that 18 years old. Hey, you're going to go fight our country's wars. You're going to go into battle. You're going to run headfirst into trouble and difficult situations. All right, I'm in. I know at 18, I was like, nah, I'm probably going to go to the range today and just hit a bucket of balls. I mean, that's all I'm going to do. But, and it was, again, looking at the time, you don't fully digest things, right? And now, looking back on it, Ash and I, we put, memorabilia and stuff, memories up around our apartment here. And, from West Point, and it was just really cool, and it's tough to put words on it, but I mean, we have lifelong friends from that place, and um, it was just an experience that you can never forget. And just driving onto that post and that campus every day was just so rewarding.
I believe it, and that's one of those experiences that you talk about. It kind of shapes who you are, and I imagine being around those guys, from what it sounds like Coach Begley said, kind of gives you a little bit of extra toughness. And after you went on from there, you went to Murray State, were there for a year, and then fortunately, Ashton, your wife, had a great job offer she couldn't turn down, which are things that I understand entirely. I was living down in Florida for 8 months, thought we were going to be there forever, and then I got an offer that I couldn't refuse and moved back up to Atlanta. Looking at that situation, I know it's not something that anyone ever looks forward to as far as going to a coaching position. Then like you got your guys, you're trying to help them, and then all of a sudden you have to move on. Despite all that, what was your time there like? And did you take some of that toughness from Army to them? And do you think that kind of helped anybody in particular?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I took a lot of what I learned from West Point, no doubt. I mean, again, that's one of those moments where, you think you're ready, and then, you get there and it's like, man, this is all right. This is a whole different ball game. I have mad respect for every head coach out there, because this is just so different from being an assistant that it's not even close. But that helped me out tremendously. I think the guys that I had at Murray were open to new ideas. They wanted somebody, that was young, that was hungry, and in there leading them. And I whether it be they were, hey, we're qualifying at 7:30, 8 o'clock, where the first group's off on Saturday morning. Really, coach? Normally we play at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Normally we get to sleep in and have watch college game day and have a little lunch, and then we'll just roll out to the course and play. No. We're getting up early on a Saturday morning because I don't want you taking anything Friday night. So we'll have Sunday off because that's the Lord's Day. But and that I joked with them the first time. I was like, well, we can play at West Point. We teed off at 6 a.m. Our guys were up and at it anyway, so we can go earlier if you want. So I'm letting you sleep in a little bit going at 7:30. But no, I think that was they knew of where I was coming from and the experience I had that 2 years leading up to that. So I mean, they were really open to it. And you talk about a team that's just local guys that grew up, beating racers and Murray State, and that was the cool thing about it was they welcomed Ash and I with open arms, even though we were outsiders. We both went to EKU and we weren't Murray State, but just we loved it, our time there. Obviously, you wish, like everything in life, it's longer. You wish you had more time, but again, God's got different plans for us, right? I mean, we had an incredible opportunity down here, and even then, it was. But obviously, that's my team at home, right? That's my most important team, and it was a joint decision. I mean, we just even when COVID hit, I when our guys were at home, I fell in love with instructing and helping. Just I wanted to help as many people as I could in golf. I don't care if you're 4. I don't care if you're 84. I just want to. If you want to come and get better at golf, then I'm willing to help you get there based on what I know and my experiences. I'm not saying it's right, but it's what I know, and that's how I'm going to teach, from learning from every coach or golf instructor that I've learned from. And but the time at Murray, again, you talk about valuable times and the people you meet and the guys that you get to coach, and it's not all rainbows and cotton candy. I mean, you have some tough conversations and you have some tough times anywhere you go, but looking back on it, that's what makes it so special. Is I know it wasn't for a long time, but time was very memorable.
Now that you're focused on becoming an instructor and following that passion, who are some of the inspirations that you draw from for your instructing philosophy, and what are some of the key things that you try to instill in every player you coach?
Yeah, I think that's in the world of social media, Instagram, YouTube, it's hard, right? There's so much information, but how do you filter it? How do you know, a, an 80, a 70 to 80-year-old man is probably not going to get Scooby. Just going to be honest. Like it's a hard position to get in the shallow of the golf. Like it's just not going to happen. But, Mike Bender may have some cool things about how to square the club face up with if your body rotation is limited. So, you try to, as an instructor, you try to watch the greats, try to watch the guys that were once in your shoes, but now are very successful and have a lot of clients and a lot of players playing at a high level. And there's two guys in the area in Nashville right now, Ben Pelicani and Stephen Boo, that are just, they have that niche with junior players and college players. And I've gotten to fortunately meet with both of them and kind of sit in on some of their lessons. And again, a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching with our members at a Governors Club may be very similar, and that's kind of the surprising thing to me. It's like, oh man, I just was working with a guy or a girl on that same thing, Steven or Ben. And like with any golf instruction, that's, we're all trying to get you to do the same thing. We're trying to take you to the same place, but it just may be a different route, or it may be a different path based on, what you can do and can't do. But the ultimate goal is to make you the best player that you ultimately want to be, knowing that you have the communication where, hey, I'm gonna show you this because I know it works, but you got to meet me halfway. You got to work on it. I don't have some magic pill. I was working with a member yesterday. It was like, that's it. Like, you don't wait a minute. I was expecting like something magic or something to work on that was just going to be like that, and like no, I mean it's just I try to keep it simple, but it takes time. It takes work. I mean, you don't get there overnight in this game, and we all know that. We all play golf at a high level, and it's long days, long hours, and it just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, if that was the case, every guy that goes and plays Division I college golf is an All-American. Every guy that goes to these places that fly privately and have unbelievable facilities and have the $100,000 technology, I mean, they'd be All-American. See, that's not the case.
It takes a lot to bake a cake, especially when not only do the ingredients involve, just getting the face pretty square at impact, which is a hard thing to do just in general. You compare that to like throwing a baseball. Throwing a baseball is something that we naturally have an idea for, a propensity for. Swinging a metal object at over 100 miles per hour around your body is not exactly something that's ingrained into our normal physiological movements. And beyond just getting the club face square at impact, you have to get the club face square at impact under pressure. You have to be able to do that in tournaments. When you have juniors who are in tournaments, what would you tell them as far as, hey, like, here's what I'd be thinking about during a tournament? Because the thing about juniors is getting that club face square at impact. They're not going to do it consistently, probably. They're going to have bad shots, just like all of us. Like, we're all going to have bad shots. How do you get them to deal with that reality and then also stay in the tournament? Because as you talked about earlier, like, the point is to get the ball in the hole. You might have a day where nothing good is happening, but your job is to get the ball in the hole in as few strokes as possible, not in the prettiest way possible, not with the squarest club face as possible, in the fewest strokes as possible. What would you tell them, and how do you take your experience as a college coach to them?
I think a lot of juniors, I noticed, they get caught up in that word perfect. Everything's got to be perfect that day. They got to warm up perfect. They got to hit the ball perfect on the range. They got to see that normal ball flight they're used to seeing, or else, it's not going to work that day. And I think, we have a junior player at the club right now that when I came in May, I think he was ranked around, maybe 800 junior golf scoreboard. Now he's, inside the top 275, and he actually just committed to Big Blue up in Lexington, and an incredible, had an incredible summer. I mean, the summer that you just haven't, he rose almost 600 spots in the rankings, and I've been fortunate enough to watch him and be around him day to day, but also be at a few tournaments and watch him warm up. And warm ups are not the prettiest. I mean, he's figured it out early what you need to figure out in college, that, a warm-up's a warm-up. I know in myself that I have the self-confidence to go out knowing that I may not have my best stuff that day, but I'm gonna get in the hole, like you said. I'm just gonna get the ball in the hole today. And I think if you put that in that mindset early on and you instill that in junior players, it goes a lot further than, oh, my swing's got to look perfect. Because we all know those guys, right, that need, they need to see themselves on video every day, and they need to have that feeling. And, yeah, you're fighting against that in instruction, because, you're even putting videos out on social media of these swings, and, again, just telling them, like, hey, that's not reality, man. Like, you're going to go out and you're going to play tournament golf, and it's not going to be easy, but the big, it's more important to have that self-belief and that self-confidence, knowing that no matter what happens that day, you're gonna hit it in the widest part of the hole. You're gonna hit it to the fattest part of the green, and on holes that maybe you're not as comfortable on, and then you're just gonna get the ball in the hole. You're gonna keep the ball in front of you. You're not gonna three putt. And we all know decade system is fantastic, right? I mean, that to me, that's I kind of put my own spin on it a little bit, but to me, it's like, it doesn't get any better with that. Taking actual facts and numbers and putting it towards, how to play a specific hole or how to play a specific course is huge for these junior players, because that's one thing that you think but you don't when you get to college. You don't know how to manage it. I think you do, but you don't. It's you're big, strong, athletic in high school, and you're playing 6,500 yards. You can hit it past the dog leg. You can hit it past the dog leg that's 270, 280. Not in college, when that dog leg turns into 300, 310. I mean, you're not getting it there. So, how does somebody deal with that? That's a big part of instruction, is not only on the range, but also I love getting out on the course and just kind of seeing how they compete, how they, putting them in that situation. And I was telling a guy the other day, nothing resembles competition to me better than worst ball. You got to go out and play, even if it's for 9 holes, you got to play worst ball, because it makes you hit that shot under pressure, knowing that if you don't hit it in that same spot you just did, if it was a good one, that you're hitting it again, you're playing that one.
What's your spin on decade that you have?
I love it. I mean, again, I've had interactions with Scott Faucett, and he's a great guy. I mean, understandably, he did some things, the past few weeks that, I'm not going to get on Twitter and do that. But I mean, again, like, I've gotten to meet Scott and interact with him enough to where I know that all he cares about is giving you the best opportunity to succeed. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. He has blown up tremendously. I mean, it's one of those things where this has never been done in golf before, right? Again, if you're the first of your kind, if you're the first one to land on the moon, then people are going to talk about you, and rightfully so. I mean, this is something that, looking back on it, it's like, wait a minute, like, he did all that work the past however many years, and went back and got all those numbers, and now he's trying to help you play the best golf because he got the numbers of the best players in the world and what they did. I mean, it's revolutionary stuff. It really is. And that's, I think, you're at a disadvantage to this point as a junior player if you're not at least researching it and seeing if it works for you. I mean, it may not work for you. You may be the guy that, grew up at Bobolink Golf Course, and you just bomb it down the fairway, and you're country strong and wedge it on the green, and that works for you. That's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing about golf, is it doesn't matter what you look like. It only matters how many times you can get that ball in the hole. I mean, that's all that matters. You don't have to look like a middle linebacker or, a freakish athlete to play this game. And that's kind of what I love about it. It's just, but it takes that reinforcement in your decision making. And, you obviously have to practice it like anything else, but it's definitely an advantage.
So looking back on your junior and college careers, how would you say your strategy would have been different had you had a decade? How do you approach it now, knowing that information?
At the time, we don't know what we don't know, right? I mean, looking back, and I'm like, man, I wish I had, this mentality or this knowledge when I was playing in college. Uncle Rico throwing the football, right? It's like back in my day, I could do this, I could do that. But imagine if I had technology and the information that you youngsters have now, these dang Generation Zers and blah, 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 you can go on and on. But I mean, looking back on it, I tell people I wish I did more, from a psychology standpoint, a mentality standpoint of doing stuff that built that self-confidence, knowing that within yourself that you have it, and you can do this and building that, it's just like going to the gym and working out, right? It takes work. It takes time. It's like going to the range and hitting a bucket of balls. It takes time to do that, to build that up. And to me, again, that's the biggest thing that separates good players from great players. If you play Division I college golf, you're a good player. There's no arguing that. But what takes you from playing Division I college golf to going out and performing really well on the mini tours and then eventually the big tour? Big tours now, I should say, plural. But that's a whole different argument. But I mean, what separates that? And to me, from my experience and what I've seen of players that go out and do really, really well in the professional ranks, is inside that self belief of knowing they know themselves, they know where the golf ball is going to go. That they know that if it doesn't go there, it's going to go here, which isn't as bad as what other players' golf balls could do. I mean, it's just, again, like I said, if perfect swings matter, then everybody that plays Division I college golf would pro. If these $1 million facilities matter and they get you better, and that's the difference, every body that played a high level Division I college golf, Power 5, would go pro. But we see that's not the case. So what is that difference maker? What is that outlier? And to this point, that's the only thing I can see is inner belief, self belief, knowing that you're going to go out that day and give it your best shot, and it's you're going to have knowing you're going to have bad days, but it's just not going to be as bad as what it used to be.
That makes sense, and that's something that I think about. You said something earlier that I really thought was special. We talked with Tim Stewart about this exact thing, and that was, you talked about the student that is going on to play at UK, and how, like, when he goes to the range, it isn't always the prettiest thing in the warm up, but the warm up is the warm up. That's something Tim Stewart said. If you don't know Tim went from not being well known to winning the Australian Am and like coming in second in almost every event that you can think of on the amateur circuit over 2007, 2008, like second in the British Am, second in the Rice Planters, like all these events in a row. And he jumped to the number 4 ranked amateur in the world, and it was a lot to figure out. Now he's 37 playing professional golf. And that's one of the big things he said that he's learned is, like, the warm up is the warm up. Like, what happens on the range isn't what happens on the course. It doesn't matter either way. You got to be able to have that inner belief to go out and play your game. And I can tell you, I remember being a junior, being out on the course and then hitting a bad shot and thinking, oh, that's like this technique. Like this technique is the problem. Like some sort of technique that needs to be fixed. Whereas in reality, like, we're swinging a club that fast around our bodies, and it's just going to happen. Things are going to be randomly happening. You'll have misses here or there. And what it sounds like to me you're saying is, you teach your kids those systems, and like they'll miss shots, but as long as they're keeping the ball in play and in front of them, and it'll help them instill that inner belief, because they might miss shots, but they're not missing it out into the parking lot because they aimed right next to the OB. And that's something that can help you as a junior. Moving on, the last question we ask all of our guests is, now you're older, wiser, you know a whole lot more. If you could go back to yourself as a junior golfer and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Kind of alluded to it earlier. Be open to more of the psychology stuff, the mentality stuff. I mean, throwing that in your blender of information, and on top of the physical stuff that you need to do every day to prepare yourself for tournament play. You can never, it's just like what I tell people that come to me in a lesson. We're just, we all have that lesson where I can't miss. He's just hitting it too good. What do I need to work on? Nothing. I tell, like, nothing in your swing, obviously. Like, you're hitting it perfect. The numbers are great on the full swing, and the video's looking good. Your body's rotating good. Just tell, you can't practice enough short game. Like you just can't. It's just one of those things. It's like nowadays in basketball, you cannot practice free throws long enough. It's just you can't do it. You can always do something, and then if you're hitting it well in the range, go to the course. I mean, that's one thing I would, I've learned is that I don't have to go to the course and drop a bunch of balls down and hit shots into the greens. I can go to the course and get better playing around the golf. And we just had that misconception of like, okay, that wasn't practice, that was playing. No, like you're still practicing. I mean, but you're practicing putting yourself in that tournament mode because like, there are no mulligans. There's no practice balls when push comes to shove and you're under the gun and you're in a tournament. Like, so putting yourself in that mentality, like you can go out and play with your buddies and, maybe get up on the first tee and say, hey, it's, we're putting everything out today. None of this, inside the grip is good and all that crap. Cause that's not going to get us better. I go off on tangents too, just because I am passionate about it. And again, my biggest pet peeve when I was in college coaching, and still when I'm working with juniors in a practice round, is they're putting to where the hole is that day. Practice round, they're putting to the hole, and that, again, I love because I was on many teams that played games and competed, and would put milkshakes on the line at practice. So to hold that putt, keep score that day. But then don't sit there and hit putts just because you need to see the ball go in the hole. That's not going to do anything for you because I can, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I guarantee you the flag's not going to be there tomorrow and the next day when we're out here playing under the gun and it means something, So, I mean, that's one thing. And I can tell juniors now is anticipate, be present, but also anticipate what can happen next in the future. And, I think that's what a lot of great coaches say is, we're going to hit a shot and then we're going to go hit it again. Anticipate, it's the hard part, right? The cliche is be in the present, one shot at a time. But really, if I'm a great chess player or a chess master, like I'm not playing one move at a time. Like I'm playing this move, thinking that it could lead me to this move, thinking it could lead me to that move, and then boom, I beat you. That's kind of what is so good about Decade, and that's kind of what's so good about a lot of the stuff now that I've learned to know is around a golf, you're out there setting yourself up. It's a game of chess. It's you and the golf course, and you got to hit it here to hit it here, and boom, you made birdie, you beat that hole. Okay, you won the battle, but we're still ongoing. So now we got to go to the next hole, and again, so you're wanting to stay present one shot at a time, but you're also setting yourself up for the next move. And that's kind of what helps, and that's what these junior players don't really. They need a little bit more nudge and help.
I definitely needed that as a junior. I still need it now, but much more than as a junior. I look back now and I think, I'm not the best right now. I don't get out as much, but I do a whole lot more with what I have than I used to. We appreciate it a ton. Where can people find you on social media?
I think Instagram is like _Coach DeLuca. I've been a few places these last few years, so I've had different to keep changing it, but I think it's Coach _DeLuca Golf maybe on Instagram. And I'm trying to do more on social media. It's for me it's always hard because you're in a lesson and you don't want to, you're people are coming to pay you for your time and attention, and there's a good balance of filming stuff and then going back later and posting it. And that's kind of what I've been doing, and it's hard, right? Because you don't want to be on the phone when somebody's paying you this money to give them your time and attention and your knowledge. So to me, I'm still trying to figure out that part. I'm going to do some things this off season with some people when it comes to kind of marketing and branding yourself. And again, I picked a really good time to come on because I'm in a position that I haven't been in a while, right? Past 11 years, I've gone into a fall on a college campus. This is the first fall in 11 years I'm not going to be on a college campus, but knowing that I also am passionate about this and teaching and instructing, I have to figure myself out. I'm a minnow in a pond now. I'm a minnow in a great big ocean, of this Nashville area, but I know I can, improve each and every day and get better at things that I need to. And I think, that again, that wealth of knowledge of throwing it out there on social media is really good, but there's a balance of, what's too much and, does that take away from the fact that I'm trying to make this player that comes to me better.
Thanks for joining us today. Please do us a big favor and like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts so we can help others learn how to play better tournament golf. You can find us online at thetournamentcode.com, on Instagram at thetournamentcode, and on Twitter at tournamentcode. As always, feel free to reach out to us at those places or email us at daniel@thetournamentcode.com and cooper@thetournamentcode.com. We hope you join us as we continue to dive deeper into what it takes to play elite tournament golf.